As mean as the old Darrock, they said. They have no idea. Morals are for the weak. Greetings, ladies and laddies, and welcome back to the realms of this cursed city. Having finished all of the enemies for the players with Raduka the Wolf at the top last week, I thought it would be most fitting to start on the heroes with vampire hunter Jelsen Darrock. In the book Cursed City by C.L. Werner, he is the first hero to arrive at Ulfenkarn, and his model for the game is undoubtedly one of the coolest and most exciting to paint, featuring a whole bunch of cool weapons and just loads upon loads of nice details. Ready your paints, pick up your brushes, and without further ado, let's get going. The first thing we want to start off with is his leather coat. Everything else is mounted on it, so we better get it done first, where we don't have to worry about all of the other stuff. For this, we take a rich brown, a big brush, and apply this paint being quick and messy. We do the same with his leather hat, also using the same rich brown. Okay, after that is done, we turn our attention to the belts, taking a distinctly different color, as we want it to be easily distinguishable from the other leather. As soon as I put down the paint for the belts, I realized that the color I was using was a lot more yellow than I thought. But I kept going, hoping that the wash would take care of it. After all, the main thing is that it stands out from the coat, and I think it does it really well. For the inside of the coat, I think we should take a lighter color. I'm using a light khaki here. Next up are the wooden stakes, for which I think we should use a very light beige, so they'll stand out nicely once all of this is finished. Hence we're painting over a mostly black primer, we will need to put down at least 2 coats to fully cover it up. Moving on to the remaining leather parts, we need another color to stand out against the rest, for which I chose a rosy terracotta. We then use this paint to color all of the remaining little and big pouches, most notably the big handbag slung on his back. Sigma preserve us, just how much leather is this guy wearing? For the gloves we take a blue tinted dark grey, or Aegean blue, as the shade is apparently called in the jargon of fine art. Yahaha! This might only be the brink of art right here, but we definitely have our moments too, huh? We also use this color for his trousers as well as his boots. As we are already on the topic of correct paint names, and I don't want to say blue tinted medium dark grey anymore, let's take a cerulean blue for the shaft of the hammer in his left hand. I wanted to use the same blue for his rifle, but then I remembered the beautiful jade paint we used for Raduka's coat last week, so I went with that instead. The gun features a lot of metal on it, but at this point in time I don't know what is what exactly, so I just give the whole weapon a jade coat and figured the metallic parts out later on. On the topic of nice colors, why not give the sheath of his sword a coat of red? As we still want to keep him quite dark though, I would recommend not using a rich, vibrant red, but rather something toned down like Bordeaux. I also use this for the belt around his head. Okay, now it's our true metallic metal's time to shine again. And no, I can't stop saying this. Taking a dark silver, we start at the bottom and work our way up from there. After Darrock's greaves are done, we paint the massive head of his hammer. Then we switch to a finer brush to catch all of the little details on his front, like the buttons of his coat, the buckles of his belts, as well as the metallic details on the big pouch on his back. Now we get to his big pauldrons, and after both of them are sufficiently coated, we come back to his rifle. The gun barrel is probably the most straightforward piece here, but the other ornaments are not quite that easy. For these, it's best we take our time here, picking out what we feel seems right and try to avoid the green casting as best we can. Alright, now we switch the silver out for gold and paint all of the ornaments left. Most of these are parts of the weapons he's carrying, like the sword on his back and especially his rifle. But there's one other thing that I almost forgot, and that is the arrow on his head. Now we just drop some of that rosy terracotta from earlier on his face, and we are finally done with all of the base colors. Oh yeah, look at that! I think our witch hunter is definitely coming together very nicely. The colors look great on his masterful cast, and depending on what you're looking for, you could definitely stop right here, something that I really don't say often. But for many of us, me including, he is still a bit too bright. Not quite fitting the scenery he's supposed to be in. So, take out a big brush and a generous amount of black wash and just slop it onto him. Make sure that every bit of him is covered, and be quick on the large areas on his back to prevent tide marks from building up. If you spot it pooling too much in some areas, just keep brushing to spread it out to your liking. While we're waiting for the wash to work its wonders, we can use the time to prepare the base as we usually do, laying the foundation with texture paint, and then dab and dry brush it over for more texture. For the cobblestone, I'll use a brighter tone than usual, as I fear that it would blend in with his shoes otherwise. Then we give the whole thing a quick brown wash, paint the trim in a smooth pitch black, and we are done with the speed painting. Now I think this is what lets a hobbyist's heart beat faster. The wash definitely dulled down the paint to a desired grimdark level, but more than that, it gave the model a lot more depth and tied the paint job together as a whole. But this also shows just how important it is that the paints we used for the leather were all so different, as the wash made even those blend in with each other quite well. Jelsen Darrock is fully painted up to a game and battle ready standard, but you might notice that he doesn't quite look like the model you saw on the thumbnail. Well, that's because the speed paint is over now, but we still have a few aces up our sleeves, and in the next few minutes, I would like to show you guys a few slightly more advanced steps to even further upgrade this already awesome looking mini. First off, we want to give the leather coat more highlights. For this, we use the same rich brown as we did for the initial base coat, as the wash dulled it down so much. We also want to brighten up the upper part of his head, but still leave plenty of the wash showing. We then move on to the belts, taking that mustard yellow again and tracing the edges with it. The big pouch on his back can be highlighted the same way as the coat, using the rosy terracotta to not only pick out the folds and edges, but also brighten up the big areas that catch a lot of the light from above. For the gloves, we change our tactics, using a brighter blue than we used for the base coat, and only, quite sparingly, catch the highest streaks of the sharp folds with it. We can also use this light blue for the shaft of the hammer, as well as the grip of his sword. The only thing that doesn't get any more highlights are the boots, as I want them to stay dark, standing out to the cobblestones below. Anyway, we highlight the top facing parts of his rifle with jade, before moving on with painting the edges of the greatsword's sheath in a light red. When highlighting the stakes with a pale beige, we only trace half of the round top, and then pull a streak right down the middle. Be very careful though, because here's quite a lot at stake. No one? Hello? Last but not least are the true metallic highlights. For all of the steel I used a bright silver, and for the gold I just used a shiny gold. To speak a bit more in general here, the best way I found to highlighting true metallic metal is to just pick out the parts that face the sun directly. To pick those out, just use the light from your lamp shining on the mini as reference, and paint the areas that give the most reflections. Another good tip is to just do what you think looks cool, even if it might not be that realistic. On the pauldrons, I painted the highlights in small streaks, to give the metal a more battle-worn and battered look. Darrock's face, which also features an eye patch on the left, needs a bit more attention too, but because it is really well hidden under his coat and hat, there is no way I could paint and film it properly. I'm really sorry about that. His face was also quite finicky to paint on its own, but if you're a newcomer to the hobby, you can absolutely get away with not further touching it, as it is ridiculously well hidden, and for the most part doused in black shadow anyway. Alright, for my final strike I just planted some small bushes on the base to add a little bit of interest, as well as to make the whole entity look more eye-catching, before calling this paint job officially done. In just one day of painting, we got Jelsen Darrock, the cunning vampire hunter and arguably the leader of our hero task force, to an awesome level of painting, without going crazy on the paints, I think. On the other hand, the miniature itself is just really badass looking on its own, and painting this beautiful cast was really exciting all the way through, which is why I really hope that you had just as much fun watching this video. If you're following me along this project with your own miniatures at home, you will have one of 9 heroes done, as well as the other 51 antagonists of the Cursed City box set. As always, I'll have a full guide in the description of the video, listing all of the exact paints that I used for this paint job. And should you have any questions, maybe a couple of suggestions, be my guest and share them in the comment section. Oh, and please tell me if you would rather have me use names like Aegean or Cerulean Blue, or if I should better stick to my description of paints, like blue tinted medium dark grey and so on. Even though Darrock's renown precedes him, and his martial prowess is undoubted, he has to admit that fighting the demons of Ulfenkarn alone would be as foolish as it would be suicidal. But luckily, he isn't alone, and so we will paint the malign scholar Octgen Glimscry in the next episode of our speed painting series. And if you would like to see his paint job, as well as the other heroes of the Cursed City box set, feel free to hit the subscribe button. As I am really looking forward to seeing you again in my next video. Until then, take care.